Greetings, sifters. Now I am Shane Satterfield.
And I'm Matt Kyle.
Due to a quirk of graphics, we decided to switch chairs.
This is the first time I've ever sat here. It's very strange to see everything from a different perspective for the first time. But we are here for the third annual SFL SIFTD Fantasy League. For those of you who may be wondering what the hell is going on, we'll kind of explain to you how it works. So, as some of you may know, I am a huge fantasy football player. I've been playing it for like 20-some years, and obviously I also love video games. So a few years ago, when we were getting ready to launch SIFTD, I came up with the idea to do a video game fantasy league where Matt and I take turns picking games, and then at the end of the year, we basically tally up the total Metacritic score for every game that we've selected, and whoever has the highest point total wins the league. So year one, it was myself against Marcus Beer. I beat Marcus down. Last year, it was myself against Matt, and Matt beat me down pretty good. Something to keep in mind about this league.
Mainly because most of his players didn't show up to the stadium.
Yeah. And so I was going to say is, one thing to keep in mind is that if your game ends up getting delayed or isn't released in the year, you get a 0 for that game. And last year, I ended up having 5 games that were delayed out of the year that I got 0s for. So Matt beat me pretty handily. So we thought about doing some rule changes this year. We thought about maybe adding a couple tweaks and some quirks. I thought about maybe adding bench games. So if one of our games was delayed out of the year, we wouldn't get a 0. We could maybe slide in 2 games in to take their place. I decided against that. And another idea I came up with was actually assigning positions for the league. So say you would have to draft 2 RPGs and 2 first-person shooters and 1 strategy game, but I decided not to do that either. So we're doing the league exactly the same as we had the last couple years. I think it's worked out pretty well, and it's fun. It's something we keep track of all year long. So as I said, Matt won last year. He also picked first last year, so I get the first pick in this year's draft. And with the number 1 pick in the SFL 2017 draft, I select Mass Effect Andromeda. Yep. So I waffled.
The quarterback.
Yeah, my quarterback. I had Mass Effect Andromeda on my team last year, by the way, and it burned me pretty good. And the way I figured was, 1, I think it is going to be one of the highest reviewed games of the year because every Mass Effect game has got a 9 or better aggregate when it was all said and done. But also, I wanted to recoup the pain that I felt from last year because of this game. Everything I've seen from this game, Matt, so far has been impressive. I haven't seen a lot of complaints from hardly anyone about anything related to the game so far. I'm personally really excited for it. All the demos they've shown, all the gameplay they've shown has looked incredible. We already know they can write great stories. We already know the base, the bones, the skeleton is there already for a great game.
Yeah. Which color are you going to pick for the ending?
I think it's a safe pick. I think it's a good pick. If you talk about pedigree with developing games, obviously BioWare has one of the best pedigrees in the industry. I can't remember the last time they released even a mediocre game.
Dragon Age.
I guess some people argue that Dragon Age was one of those, but some people would argue against that as well. So I feel secure. I feel like I made the right pick with first overall there with Mass Effect Andromeda. Matt, what is your first overall pick?
First overall pick is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which should not be surprising to anybody.
Yep, that was the game that I said I was waffling on between the two.
I think you had that last year, and you got
Yeah,
screwed.
that was another game that I picked last year, and it never came out. It was delayed, so.
It's a Zelda game, and it's going to review really well, whether it's good or not. So.
I see in the chat, Potty 2 is saying there's a BioWare bump, too. He's insinuating that BioWare gets inflated review scores for its games.
I'm a BioWare fan, but I would not necessarily disagree with that.
Yeah. So, Matt, what makes you think that Breath of the Wild is going to review so highly?
It's a Zelda
keep in mind, this isn't us thinking the game's going to be the best game.
No.
These are what we think is going to review the highest.
Yeah. It's a Zelda game. They're going to throw the Zelda fans to review it. It's the first full-fledged Zelda game in many years. What was it? 2011 with Skyward Sword?
I don't think it was. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, it was 2011. Yeah.
So first real Zelda game in almost 6 years. If you want to go back to the last good Zelda game, that's like 10 years.
Yeah.
So, I think people are hungry for it. I think reviewers can't wait to get their hands on it. I think it looks really good. It's a new style of things, and what I played for 30 minutes or so at E3 last year was super solid. So I have no doubt this game's going to be well into the nines.
Zelda bump.
Zelda bump.
Because I would argue Skyward Sword got reviewed a little higher than it probably should have.
Well, the Skyward Sword is also, like I said, even if the game isn't good, it's not going to matter.
Decent score, yeah, for sure. I agree with that. In fact, you know what I just realized, Matt?
It'll take us a while to realize that it's bad.
Actually, the first 4 games on this list were all games
Yep.
that I had drafted last year that never.
No, I had Horizon.
Oh, you're right. Okay. Well,
Spoilers.
I just kind of ruined a pick. My next pick, my second pick in the SFL 2017 draft is Persona 5.
Your first round pick last year.
It was. Was it my first overall?
I think it was. Yeah, because it surprised me because I didn't think it was going to come out.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of my picks surprised you because you didn't think they were going to come out last year. I think Persona 5 speaks for itself. It got basically a perfect score in Famitsu. I have already watched hours, and obviously the game's out in Japan already. I've already watched hours and hours of this game in action, literally hours and hours. Game looks amazing. It looks like the best Persona yet, and I think Persona 4 got around 9.2 aggregate. Yeah. I think I honestly probably should have taken this first overall. I think I just got a little nervous because it is a Japanese game and it's kind of a turn-based RPG. You can never really tell how the majority of critics are going to take something like that, and I think that's why I dropped it down to second for me.
If you didn't pick it second, I was going to. So yeah. I don't disagree at all.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that, getting it third overall and for my second round pick. I'm excited to play it as well. We don't have to wait very long. It's a safe pick. We know Persona 5 is coming out. I'm not have to worry about the game not being released and getting a goose egg for it. So for me, Persona 5, third overall.
And my next was, as you may have gathered already, Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yep. You kind of blew the coop on that one.
Which I also picked last year, and that was the one I picked last year that did not come out.
Yeah.
I don't know how this is going to sell, but I'm pretty sure it's going to review well.
I was waffled on that one. It's a new IP, and it's from Guerrilla.
Yeah. The pedigree is not really there, but I have confidence in this one. I can't quite tell you why. It's more of a...
Well, I can tell you why. It looks amazing.
Well, yeah, but I'm more of a good feeling about this one. People who have gotten their hands on it have all had nothing but good things to say about it.
I don't think you're going to regret drafting this here at all.
No.
I think,
and I think
round,
it's actually going to come out. So.
Or second round, yeah, it's going to come out. Second round is, I think, okay for this game. I do worry, that it is a Guerrilla game. They've only really done first-person shooters in the past. This is a big leap away from that. But, if you would have taken it here, I probably would have taken it next or the round right after that.
Yeah. And it's like, as I've said before, this game feels like something Guerrilla's wanted to make for a long time.
Yeah.
Having been stuck in the Killzone world for many, many years. So I feel like this is going to be a synergy of a lot of good ideas and putting their heart into it, and I think it's gonna be something special, and I feel like the reviews are gonna reflect that.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I think it's good. Here's what I would say. I don't think you have to worry about it doing poorly.
No, I don't think it's gonna get 60s or anything.
But in the first 2 rounds, I'm trying to find games that I am as close to 100% certain as possible that it's gonna end up at a 9 or higher.
I am pretty close to 100% certain it'll be up there.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be close. We'll see. You never know. That's why this is fun. All right, my next pick. And I actually adopted one of Matt's tactics from last year with this pick. Because
I almost picked this instead of Horizon.
You surprised me with your DLC pick last year for The Witcher. And I hadn't even...
Which was a good pick.
It was a great pick. I hadn't even considered, DLC. Because a lot of times DLC doesn't really get reviewed, and when that happens, there's a big variant. There could be a big variance in scores where, one low score can bring it down a bunch. But I'm feeling pretty confident that this one's going to get reviewed a lot. And my third pick is Uncharted 4: The Lost Legacy. So Uncharted 4 story DLC. People have waited a long time for it. Obviously, Uncharted 4, an amazing game. I'm surprised more people actually did not select Uncharted 4 as Game of the Year. It wasn't my Game of the Year, but I figured there would at least be 30% of Game of the Year awards would probably end up selecting it. Really, hardly any did. So I was kind of surprised at that. It's a Naughty Dog game. You know the quality is going to be there. They've had plenty of time to work on this, even if they hadn't hardly worked on it at all leading up to the release of the game. I just think the pedigree's there. Naughty Dog's never released a bad game. Never, ever released a mediocre game. Not even back in the old days. So I'm really confident in this pick. I do feel it's a little slimy DLC picks. I don't know. It just feels weird to me doing it.
I mean, they seem to be considering this standalone enough that, you know, it's certainly not like an extra mission or something. It's its own story, and they're even saying it's going to be totally, you know, distinct from Uncharted 4. So I think it's a fair pick. I was going to pick it. In fact, it's probably, you know, if I had to bet whether it or Horizon's going to rate higher, it's probably going to be Uncharted 4 because of that Naughty Dog bump.
It could be bad. I mean, it could. That is one thing with Horizon. You're not getting any kind of a bump.
Yeah.
It's just what it gets is what it's going to earn, basically. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with that pick there. Again, it's all about what is end up with the highest aggregate review score. Keep that in mind as we do this. I know it's very easy to start thinking, but wait, some other game I'd rather play. It's not about what we want to play. It's strictly about what is its final Metacritic score going to be.
Nowhere is that more true than my next pick.
That's right. So, Matt, what is your next pick?
My next pick is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which I have no interest in playing whatsoever, but I think it's going to rate really freaking high because Mario Kart is dependable. Mario Kart 8 was already really good, and I don't really see them screwing it up in this one, so I think it's going to have an extremely high Metacritic thing, especially because it's one of the only things you're going to be able to play on the system through the summer. And add the battle mode back in, and people love the battle mode.
This may be a caveat we have to change for next year's draft.
I got no doubts on this one.
Ports, I don't know if they should be. And look, it wasn't a rule, so it's totally fine that you selected this.
Nintendo's gonna call a new game and charge $60 for it, I'm gonna fucking pick it.
But I do think maybe for next year we should say like no ports. Like the game has to come out for like the first time. You actually did it with like Day of the Tentacle last year.
Yeah, when you did it this year too.
Right.
So we'll get there.
Oh wait, I did it this year?
Yep.
With what? No,
Technically.
Oh.
Technically.
Wow. Okay. When
Technically
we get there,
correct.
When we get there, I'll explain to you what Matt's trying to bust my balls for right now, and I think you guys will agree that it's not worthy to bust my balls over. But Stan User says, I say no ports. So there's one person on my side.
I think it's a very viable rule, no ports, but it wasn't a rule yet.
No, you're right. Totally agree. It's totally fine that you picked that. And I think it was a great pick. That game is going to score really high, I guarantee it. It may get the anti-bump, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is a port. And it doesn't look to me like it has that many upgrades over the Wii U version.
It doesn't. So,
I mean,
there
is
a
little
it's a possibility.
Editorial backlash there.
It could end up in you could get the Mario dip.
Yep, that's for sure. The bump and the dip. Get the Mario dip. Okay, are you done? Have you explained yourself thoroughly?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, my next pick is... Wish this thing had a drum roll. It doesn't. Oh, it does.
Oh.
Ukulele!
That was a drum, not a ukulele.
Yeah.
Interesting. I had this on my list, but it was much further down.
Yeah, I drafted this too high. I'll be the first to admit to it right now. I was doing, literally, whenever I was drafting with Matt, I was doing probably 5 things at once. I was trying to get Game Face ready. We just did a 3-hour Game Face. And get this ready. Get all the graphics, all the trailers. I'm making tons of excuses. I did draft it a little bit early, I think, because so for those of you who don't play fantasy football, it's not always about just drafting the best player. It's about trying to figure out when everybody else is going to draft that player, or in this case, game. So even though I think ukulele will probably score and make sense in between like the games that are around it, if I could have figured out that Matt wasn't going to, or if I thought that Matt wasn't going to draft ukulele that high, I could have got another game that he would have drafted before that and got it before him. It actually ended up helping my team overall. Hopefully you can follow the logic there, but it's like what they call it in fantasy football is a reach when you draft a player earlier than he should be, because you're costing yourself. You could have got somebody else because no one else was even thinking about drafting that person. So that's kind of what happened here. Matt, would you even have drafted ukulele at all?
Maybe further down the line. I'm skeptical about it because it's like I'm super interested in ukulele, but like it's such a throwback that I worry that the reviewers will kind of like be like, wow, what is this? Like this, like maybe they like. I think there might be people that just don't get it.
Well, look,
or
there's
like,
a lot of young people reviewing games now.
Yeah.
Who don't have an affinity for the 3D platformer.
Yeah, like I mean, I think this game is leaning on nostalgia so hard that it will be good for me. But I wonder if the people doing the reviewing these days are gonna get charmed by it the way it charms me. I guess is what I'm thinking. And like, I may be totally wrong, and maybe this is like a universal thing that everybody loves. But like, I just wasn't quite willing to take a risk on it in the 4th round.
It's interesting though, because I will say when I texted back
Also,
to you,
you've got the new IP.
Yeah.
Tightrope
dip.
there. Yeah.
The new IP dip. I will say though, once we got past like the first 6 picks, I looked at my list of games and they were all pretty much the frickin' same. Like all of them are like, it could get a 9, it could get an 8. Like
you ran out of sure bets pretty fast.
you did, yeah. And like I
terms of,
texted you and I was like, oh, it got really hard now. And then that's when I picked ukulele.
Especially in terms of stuff you know is going to make it this year.
Yeah.
So my next pick is Super Mario Odyssey.
Talk about risky.
I don't think it's as risky as you think it is. I think it is risky.
I think it's a little risky. I don't think it's that
I
risky.
just think, look, if Super Mario Odyssey doesn't make it this year, Nintendo's got way bigger problems than I do.
Yeah.
It's like, because that is their entire holiday right there.
Yeah.
Like that is their, if they launch that system when they want to launch it, Mario Odyssey is their launch title.
And they have said that the game is nearly finished.
Yeah.
So
this is I don't deny that this is a risk, but I'm pretty okay taking it, especially considering what it's going to probably rate given what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's undoubtedly going to score really high. I mean, there's never been a 3D Mario that didn't score at least an 8.5 aggregate when it was all said and done. It's Nintendo. And like Nintendo delays stuff for weird reasons. Like,
they do, but I just don't think they can on this one. They have to have this here for
you know
Christmas.
how many times I've said I don't think Nintendo can fill in the blank, and then they do fill in the blank a lot.
I don't think Nintendo can make the Switch a huge hit.
I think I'm just arguing because I'm jealous that you have this game and I didn't. I think I actually was thinking about trying to get it at like the 9th or 10th pick. So I thought you would view it at least as risky as I did, but obviously not.
Well, what happened there is because I had it much further down my list because I thought you were going to avoid it because I knew you thought it was going to get delayed. But
I'm paranoid now.
But when you picked,
I've been burned so bad.
But when you picked ukulele, I'm like, oh, shit's out the window. Like I don't know. Like I don't know what he's doing now. Like he could be going anywhere from here.
Got ya.
So I decided I'm just going to grab Mario and call it.
Well, here's the thing about risk in anything you do. Risk can totally ruin everything for you, or it can put you over the top. And if this game does come out before the end of the year, it could be the game that literally, it's like the last leg of the race where you have the kick come in the last 100 yards and pass me up. So
yeah.
Sometimes risk is worth it.
But I think this is 80% making it this year.
And if there was one game worth risking it, this is probably it.
Are you talking about a sure thing as close as you can get?
I'm just so paranoid now after what happened last year. Like I had just completely erred on the side of complete caution.
I don't blame you. I think this game is so integral to their holiday strategy that it's gonna make it. Hell or high water.
It makes sense.
Which actually could work in my detriment because it could be one of the first major Mario games that Nintendo rushes out.
Yeah. I don't see that.
That's very out of character for them.
Yeah, Nintendo takes very good care of Mr. Mario. Yeah. They don't want to screw that up. That's their one IP they know they can't mess up. So.
God, he is Mr. Mario, isn't he? Mario.
Yep.
That's his damn name.
All right, time for my next pick. My next pick is... I'm going to do this every time for my picks. Ghost Recon Wildlands.
Running out of batteries on that thing.
It might be.
Little warbling
I've been
there.
using it for like 2 years and I've never replaced any batteries on it. Usually you just get the clap. This thing has all kinds of sounds though. Anyway, Ghost Recon Wildlands. Open world, game coming from Ubisoft. Ubisoft, I think we could maybe all agree, are the kings of open world games at this point. Other than Rockstar, I guess.
Most prolific, for sure.
I mean, certainly most prolific. Yeah, I mean, I guess Rockstar, you could say, makes better ones, but they make one game every, 10 years. So is that really fair?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, Ubisoft jerks
I'd
off
imagine if
in open
Ubisoft
world every
spent
morning.
10 years making the next Assassin's Creed, it would be really freaking good. So, I don't know. I started looking down the list of games coming out this year. They just put out a huge 20-some minute demo of the single-player campaign. That's up on SIFTD right now if you want to look at it. I was really impressed with that. I've been really impressed with the talent that they've got to sign on for the story in this game. They have Oscar-winning people working on the script for it. They put out a live-action short that was really good. Did you watch that where they had the cat running around the house and there's a laser scope on the cat? It's amazing, really brilliant. So just the little bits and pieces that I've seen of the game and some of the other sort of tertiary work that's going on around the game, I can tell Ubisoft has gone all in on this game. All the gameplay I've seen it, I've been really impressed with. There's really no bump or dip for Ubisoft per se. There's really no curve. Usually what you play is what you get as far as Metacritic scores with Ubisoft. It's got to be better than The Division. And The Division scored pretty well.
I forgot this game existed until you picked it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, you must have been like, what is going on with Shane? Is he on drugs?
This is just not on my radar.
Wow.
I think you might be right. It might score very well, but it's just not. Wasn't thinking about it.
Okay. And what's your next pick, Matt?
So my next pick, rounding out the Ubisoft Round 5 festival here, is South Park: The Fractured But Whole.
I like you had the right emphasis on the right syllables.
Yes. Not giving you the satisfaction of the juvenile joke. No, but yeah, South Park, I think first game was super solid. This one looks better. It's got hitting all the right notes for the South Park fans, and I think it's going to review very well.
I was choosing between Ghost Recon and South Park. I was hoping I could get South Park on the way back, and then you immediately chose it. But the reason I went with Ghost Recon over South Park is because I looked at the aggregate for the last South Park game. It was an 8. And actually, an 8 in here isn't terrible.
No.
And we're already in the middle of the draft. So an 8 in this area isn't bad, but I was hoping maybe I could get an 8.4 or an 8.5 out of Wildlands.
It's possible. But it's Wildlands could go really... There's a wide spectrum.
There is, yeah. But the one thing I thought is that Wildlands probably offers more value because there's co-op and online multiplayer stuff aside from the campaign. Whereas with South Park, you've got your one campaign and you're done and that's it. So still a good pick there. I totally get that. So ready for my next one?
Yep.
My next pick, my sixth pick in the SFL 2017 draft is, and I'm going to do a drum roll this time, For Honor. The Ubisoft trifecta.
Yeah.
3 Ubisoft games right in a row there.
Really
Ghost Recon, South Park, and For Honor. Doesn't that make sense? I was really high on For Honor when it was announced at E3. I was borderline game of E3 for me. And I've cooled on it over time. I feel like kind of the brutality of the game that was shown off the first time it was debuted is kind of dissipated a little bit. It's still a brutal game. But I felt like when I first checked it out at E3, it seemed like every slice mattered, almost kind of in the way like a Dark Souls or a Bloodborne, where every hack kind of counts and you got to really be good with parrying and dodging. But the more I've watched gameplay of it and played it myself, I've realized that it's not really like that. You can take a lot of damage. It's really kind of more of a hack and slash.
Yeah, with a little more strategy.
Yeah, a little bit
stances,
more. Yeah, and classes and stuff like that. And but still, everything I've played of this game has been great. I've had a good time playing it. It also has a lot of value, like most Ubisoft games. It goes far beyond the single-player campaign. As I've said on the show before, my biggest concern with this actually is the campaign. I feel like the multiplayer is going to be great. I'm just a little nervous that the campaign actually is kind of a campaign at all. And if it's not just going to be one skirmish after another like a lot of Dynasty Warriors games. So, again, we're in the middle of the draft here. You're looking for safe bets. I know this game is coming out. That's another thing.
It's definitely coming out.
Yep. It's coming out in a month. So, in fact, most of the games that I have drafted are scheduled to come out in the first 6 months of 2016 or 2017.
This is For Honor was not on my list at all.
At all.
Specifically because of your response to it after E3. I'm super looking forward to it. It was one of my favorite things I played at E3. It comes out on my birthday. I'm very
wow.
excited. But I don't think it's going to review particularly well for all the reasons you list and all the reasons you've cited before. Because I feel like it's going to get compared to Dynasty Warriors and it's going to get compared to Dark Souls. And if you're expecting one or the other, you're not going to be.
So you're saying it's like a jack of all trades, a master of none.
Yeah, kind of. Like I think it's going for its own thing, but it's inevitably going to be compared to other games that arguably do what they're trying to do better than what For Honor seems to be faring here. And I feel like it's going to kind of land in that 70s range because of that.
Better than a 0.
True.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have at this point every single game I pretty much have misgivings with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is at the point of the draft where every game is not going to be a bona fide 8 or higher.
I have no misgivings about my next pick, which is another game I have no interest in playing.
Wait. Before you make your next pick, I want to say that I believe Matt's next pick is the best pick in this entire draft and worthy of a drum roll.
Ooh, NBA 2K18.
Yep. I never even thought to draft that game. No, it just completely slipped my mind.
I was just looking through what's the highest score and stuff from the last year or so. And
I didn't even do that.
NBA 2K games
every year
get 9s every single time.
No, that's the best pick of the entire freaking draft. And I should have known. I'm the sports guy. I should have made that pick. I felt so awful whenever I didn't pick. I was like, damn, I'm an idiot.
I was counting on you not thinking of that.
Yeah, I never would have. We could have gone all the way through the draft. I never would have picked it. Because I didn't go and look at, Metacritic to see what actually the highest scoring games of last year were. Because I never even think to, a sequel every year, other than Call of Duty. And Madden's been for the last few years. it was smart. It was a good pick.
Thank you.
Props to you, my friend. You have anything to say? You don't have anything to say about it, though, do you?
It's going to score really high, and it's going to look really good, and people are apparently going to play it at basketball courts with tiny little controllers.
Yeah. Yeah, so what happens? Which version? Is it the Switch version that's reviewed, or?
I'm just hoping the Switch version doesn't drag the average down
Yeah,
at this point.
because that's probably what's going to happen. You're absolutely right. Yep.
Just get...
I'm getting heat from the stand user. I think Shane's 5 and 6 picks are mid 70s to 80s.
Woo.
We'll see. It's better than a 0, which is what I got from these positions last year. My next pick, which will be my 7th pick, we're coming down the home stretch here already, is from Team Ninja, and it is Neo. Have you been playing the demos?
I've been playing the Last Chance demo, yeah.
What do you think?
I like it. You'll hate it.
I do hate it, actually. I played the first demo and I hated it.
And I thought this was low on my picks list, but I ended up not putting it any higher because I feel like it's going to get, again, compared to Dark Souls, and it's not. And people, not because it's worse than Dark Souls, but because people who play Dark Souls seem to have this idea in their head that everything should be Dark Souls, and the ways it diverges from Dark Souls are just going to piss people off. So yeah. I'm curious. I'm not saying that's for sure. I'm just curious how it's going to review. I wasn't sure enough about how it's going to review to pick it.
I've just read, because it's coming out really soon. There's lots of preview, and like I said, I read everything because I have to. All the previews for this have been glowing. Twitter chatter from all the journalists has been over the moon. Everyone's loving it. Again, I don't really care. I probably won't even play it.
I like it a lot.
But again, that's my 7th pick. I have 3 left, and I'm pretty happy to get that there. I also think Team Ninja knows a thing or two about sword combat.
They do, and I'm excited to play as Geralt again.
And yeah, exactly. And I think people might be pleasantly surprised by the combat in this because it's Team Ninja doing it. And that's one thing.
I think it's great.
Yeah, that's one thing I would say. I think the combat's way better than Dark Souls as far as the sword combat. And so I'm hoping that all the journalists out there are gameplay first guys like me, and it gets a little gameplay bump. All right, Matt, what's your next pick?
Well, we're going to have to go with 2 4-letter words beginning with N in this round because I picked Nier Automata.
Yeah, and they're also Japanese games.
Yeah,
There's Neo and Nier.
You're the one. Neo.
What's your explanation for this one?
It looks really cool. It's really cool. It's platinum, so it's going to get that platinum bump.
Yeah.
No, it looks really cool. It's got kind of a style all its own. The first game is kind of a darling of the critical community and the people who played it, like in the kind of the JRPG groups. It's also not really like anything else coming out. It's kind of this action RPG bullet hell boss rush shoot. There's a lot to this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping it's going to be really good, just the sense that I loved the first game and I want to play this one. And I'm hoping that the reviewers agree with me when they finally get their hands on it. The previews have been pretty solid.
The demo was good. I really enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised by the demo. My fear is that the in-between time, when you're not fighting the bosses, and that has been a problem with boss rush games for the last 2 years. All of them. If you look at every single one of them that's come out, everyone's like, it's great while you're fighting the boss, but like Fury is another one. Like, everyone loved fighting the bosses in that game, but everything you did in between that was
Most of what you did in between was walking slowly in that game.
I mean, this game looks like it's kind of the same thing, though. There's, like, these barren, like, desert environments that you just kind of waltz around waiting to get into the next big battle, so... But like I said, we're at the 7th round here. Like, you're not going to find any guaranteed 9s at this point. Like, you're going on your gut a little bit with these picks at this point. So, I totally hear you. And here's what I think is my best pick of the draft. And this is also the one that Matt accused me of picking port. And my next pick, my 8th pick, is Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valencia. This was actually my best pick of the draft last year. I don't know if you remember. I took Fire Emblem Fates. I think in the last pick, maybe
real late. It was way low.
And so this year, I was like, oh, he's on to me. He's going to know that like Shane's going to go for Fire Emblem.
This was on my list. It was on my list.
Okay. And so I was afraid that it might be. And so I
almost picked it instead of Nier.
I actually took it a little higher than I wanted to because I was afraid that you may be like, oh, Shane last year like got one over with like Fire Emblem at the end of the draft. So I took it maybe a little bit higher than I wanted to. But, dude, it paid off last year. I got Fire Emblem in the last round. It got a 9. So a 9 in the last round, that's pretty much all you can hope for. I'm not saying this is going to get that, but I'm hoping for at least an 8.5 to an 8.8 at the 8th pick. I'll take that every day and Sunday. So that's my 8th pick.
I support that. Curious to see how it'll fare since it's so different from your average Fire Emblem.
It is. Yeah, it's a little riskier. I don't know. We'll see.
Fire Emblem was never a bad call, especially this low in the draft. At worst, you're going to be pleasantly surprised, I think.
Well, the combat, I don't know. It is risky because it is a big departure from traditional. That's why it was called Guided in Japan.
Right.
Side story or whatever. So, yeah, that's it. I'm signed, sealed, and delivered on that one.
Well, my pick for this round is Splatoon 2.
This I think was your worst pick of the draft.
Might be, but I was really running out of ideas.
The first Splatoon got like an 8.2 or something like that.
Yeah, but the love for this series is so there. Like I'm wondering who's going to end up being the reviewer for this stuff.
Well, I think IGN's review will be really high.
Oh yeah, yeah. But this is a coin flip kind of. But like
here's my issue with this, and I wasn't going to draft it at all, was because the first game kind of got a pass for not having a campaign. Like people were like, "Oh, it's a new franchise. It's a really cool new idea." But with the sequel, you can't get away with that again. And again, there's no campaign in this other than like the stupid mission structure stuff that they did before. And I feel like it might get punished a little more for that this time.
Maybe, but I'm really banking on that kind of like it's Nintendo and it's just so much fun and I just love Nintendo and da-da-da bullshit to like really care. I mean, like if I really get into my like down deep reasons why I think this might be a good pick, I'm going to get insulting to certain people, I think. But it's just like it's going to do well because it's Nintendo and it's going to be the only thing to play and it's going to be debuting the online thing and people are going to think of it as a big landmark moment for the Switch and I don't agree with any of that.
Or it could be a case where people are like, I waited 4 months for another game and this is what I got.
It could be the moment of clarity too. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. But I'm pretty sure it's just going to be a big sloppy paint-covered kiss of a review to Nintendo. So I'm not super jazzed about this pick. I don't think it's like a massive coup to have this on the team. But like, I don't know. I'm in hard on Nintendo this year.
You did, man. You went all in. After the last episode of Game Face, you just went all in on Nintendo.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm not saying I think they're going to sell the way they review, but I think they're going to review very well.
Yeah. All right. My next pick is Halo Wars 2. And I will say that this game I was recently converted on this game. First of all, the developers of this game, are beyond reproach. The first Halo Wars ended up at an 8.2 aggregate when it was all said and done. But in the last couple days, all this new media and all these previews started coming out for this game. And literally, I watched a Let's Play where the person who was playing the game just sat and just lost it the whole time, just going off about how awesome it was. And like, that was kind of like what tipped me over. Like, I had a list of 15 games waiting for my last few picks. And having watched people play it, and the modes there's like a horde mode for RT, which I think is awesome. Like, I don't know why more RTSs don't have modes like that. But watching people play it and just seeing the looks on their faces and how much fun they were having playing it, I'm pretty confident. I feel like the bottom for this game is an 8. I feel like the ceiling for it is probably an 8.5, 8.6. I'm totally happy with a game in that range with my next to last pick in the draft.
It was not on my list. I'm too questioning on it. I just don't know where it's going to end up. Previews are solid, but previews of anything can be,
Yeah. That's why I said I watched somebody play it.
Yeah.
And just watched their face while they played it, and they were enjoying themselves greatly. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. If I was going to pick an RTS, I would have picked Dawn of War 3, but I wasn't confident enough of that being.
I don't think it's going to come out.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, look at all my picks, Matt.
Yeah,
they are all ironclad locks.
Oh, almost
to
every.
Come out
oh,
this
both
year.
of us. Almost every. I mean, what? Mario Odyssey is.
It's really the only wild card.
And Uncharted Lost Legacy, we don't know when that comes out, but presumably it will not be Q4.
Yeah, I would hope not.
My pick, was it 9? Round 9?
Yep.
Round 9 pick is Sonic Mania.
That's a good pick.
Normally picking a Sonic game for this would be Suicide, but I think this one, which is made with input from the community and a big throwback to the old 2D games, which is really what everybody wanted. It's what they wanted from Sonic 4 and didn't work. It's going to get a lot of remix stuff going on. It's just like, it's trading on that nostalgia thing. It's reminding you of why Sonic was fun in the first place. And I think it's going to get some solid review scores.
I think it's going to depend on who reviews the game for each outlet.
I think that's true.
I think if they get people like us to review it, it'll probably fare a lot better than if they get somebody young.
Well, unless that person who's young spent their entire lifetime watching that Sonic Saturday morning show and reads all the Archie I mean, there are younger Sonic fans.
No, you're right.
I mean, there's younger Sonic fans that defend shit like Sonic Boom, so you better give this a good goddamn review. I mean, part of it is like the Sega fan in me, but it's just like, sure, we're down to 9.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like this will probably hit the 8s, like you said about Halo Wars. So.
When was the last Sonic 2D game?
I guess Sonic Generations had 2D parts.
Yeah.
Sonic 4 was, the downloadable game was.
How did that fare?
I don't remember.
You didn't look?
Not tops. It wasn't great, and they only did 2 episodes of it, and then they just sort of stopped.
Yeah. I don't know. I personally have completely burnt out on 2D Sonic. I get the nostalgia factor for that game, but at a certain point when I'm doing these drafts, I'm like, am I excited about it?
No. I mean,
and if I'm not, then I'm not going to draft it.
Oh, that's not true of me. Not always. I mean, I'm interested. I mean, I'm certainly not excited about Splatoon, but I think it's gonna. I think it's gonna review well.
Good point. All right, this is it. My very last pick of the SIFTD 2017 fantasy draft, and that's going to get an applause.
Tepid applause for the final round.
And my final pick is Sea of Thieves.
I think this is your riskiest pick.
I don't think it is. I watched people play this game at E3 and they were losing their shit. Literally. Like freaking out playing this game. Like just laughing their asses off and having a blast. Rare ended up putting out like a video that it made itself, which I didn't trust, obviously, because it was like paid. But watching it with my own eyes, these people play it at E3, and all of them just laughing and yelling at each other and smiling and coordinating. I feel like Rare has managed to kind of find that special place where MMOs aren't fun to me, I guess is a good way to put it. Like, I've never really had fun playing an MMO. But I feel like this one kind of finds that sweet spot in between like fantasy and reality and teamwork. and communication that makes it fun for everyone, not just people who are hardcore MMORPG players. I feel like this is going to be a good starter for people, and maybe if they figure out if they like this, or they end up moving on to WoW or whatever else there is out there, the Old Republic or what have you. So I'm really excited about this game. The wild card for this, to me, is Rare. Because Rare hasn't made like a real game in forever.
Yeah.
And a lot of their talent left to work on Yooka-Laylee, and you can see I drafted that way up higher. So that, to me, is the wild card. These people have been making like motion control games instead of
That's my question
real games.
about this game, is that like it's got the whimsy, but does it have the pedigree?
Yeah.
And also, is it going to come out this year?
Oh, it's coming out this year.
It has to, right?
I mean, yeah.
They did an alpha in December.
They've had 2 early access periods for it already. They've put out, I mean, a good sign of whether a game's coming out or not is how much media comes out for it. And they put out like 14 episodes of a weekly podcast about this game already. Like, it's coming. So I'm not worried about that part of it at all. I'm just worried about how freaking good is it.
Yeah.
And using empirical evidence, which is people actually playing the game and watching them play it, and hoot and holler while they were doing it, like, it sold me. Like, and the funny part was when I was at E3 watching them play it, I'm like, I'm going to draft this game next year. And here I am with my last pick. I picked it up. So here we are, the very last pick of the SFL 2017 draft. Matt Kyle, I'll give you a drum roll.
A little weird one here. Torment, Tides of Numenera.
Why is that weird?
It's kind of a below-the-radar game for most people, I think.
I don't know, man.
I think it's going to review very well.
Oh, I mean, I don't think it's under the radar at all. For people who love these games, no, hell no. I mean, think about the developer making it. Yeah. Like, that's a great pick. Like, that was another one, I think, one of your best picks.
As a Planescape Torment fan, it looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of kicked myself for not thinking of it myself. But, yeah, I think you made a great pick there.
That's why my last pick is I knew you'd never think of it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I definitely never would have thought to pick it. But once you called it out, I was like, God damn, I would rather have that than Sea of Thieves.
Me too.
Yeah, I guess so. So that's it. That is the SIFTD 2017 draft. I think the best part about this is I feel pretty confident that ultimately we're both going to get 10 scores here.
Yeah. I don't
this
see
will be
any
the
of these
first
slipping.
year where we had a draft and both teams actually ended up coming to full fruition to see who actually had the better team instead of who got lucky or unlucky with delays or cancellations or whatever. So pretty excited. I'm wondering what people are thinking in the chat here. As far as
Vinaraba says our biggest draft problem is ignoring the indie gems. I don't trust the indie stuff to come out on time.
I never do.
That's the problem.
Nope.
It's not that I think they're going to review badly. It's that I mean, Cuphead was definitely in my alternates list, but you just have no idea.
Think about that last year. I drafted Cuphead, and it was scheduled to come out. It had been at like 20 trade shows. And the problem with indie games is you don't get enough coverage of them. It's like, if an indie game is having problems in development and it may be slipping or it's not turning out the way they want, you never hear about it. If that happens with like a big AAA game, you hear about it.
Yeah,
like,
the machine kind of starts to give you hints.
Yeah, the machine starts to do its thing, and people loose lips let things slip, and next thing you know, you're hearing something about, hey, this game may not be coming out, blah, blah, blah. With indie games, you don't know. It's just like Rime. Look at Rime. There's a perfect example. It's like nobody knew anything, and all of a sudden, Rime is not coming out. It's not a PlayStation exclusive anymore, and it's delayed until next year.
Like just Cuphead, I just don't trust. Below, I don't trust that to come out this year.
Because it's been delayed 3 times already. It's like, so what's the holdup? You never find out what the holdup is. So how can you make an educated guess on how long it's going to take for it to be finished? You just can't. And the other wild card with indie games,
I hope Cuphead's out in like Q2 or something, but there's just no indication.
Yeah, I mean, I got burned by it last year. There's no way I was going to do it this year. And the other wild card with indie games is the team size. Like, these teams are like 5 or 6 guys in some cases. Dude, if one of them gets sick or has a baby, they could set the game back like a quarter. Like, you just don't know. So I stayed way away from indie games. The other thing, too, is that indie game scores are all over the map. Like, one person's 10 for an indie game, and another guy's like 4.8.
Right.
Like,
that's the other thing about Cuphead is, like, you just don't know how reviewers are going to react to that. You know, it's really going to be really challenging. We don't know if it's going to, how far it's gone from being from just plain boss rush to now there might be, like, platforming levels or whatever. like, there's so many preconceived notions or ignorance about some of these indie games and what they're supposed to be that you just don't always know how the reviewers are going to respond to them when they come in contact.
Yeah, that's another reason why I try to stay away from really difficult games, and I kind of waffled a little bit on Neo and was questioning whether I should pick it, is because with difficult games, like...
Neo is not as hard as the Dark Souls
yeah, I know.
games, though,
but you can always come across this critic that's just like, I think this game is too hard and I don't enjoy it. Like, whereas I recuse myself from reviewing those games, some people just take the assignment and give it the low score.
Whereas, like Nier, I kept thinking about when McElroy couldn't figure out how to fish.
Right.
And he's like, I don't get is this screen of me getting stuck. And I'm just like, the X is right there.
So let's just go. We're going to go through the chat right now, and people are kind of sharing games that they were surprised were never picked. Cuphead is one a couple people mentioned. Below, people mentioned. Divinity Original Sin 2. That's probably a good one.
Call of Duty, I like that. I kind of did want to pick Call of Duty just to say I pick this year's Call of Duty. Like, we don't know what it's called. We don't know what it's going to be. It's like, but at the same time, I just don't know what it's going to. If you don't know anything about it.
Yeah, Rig Games is Vero apparently with another alias. I don't know what's going on there, but he's asking why we didn't choose Call of Duty. Surely a safe bet. Is it?
I don't know. Not after last time.
This year or last year's game is sitting at a 7.8 aggregate right now. Yeah. I mean, look, I would say it's probably the worst Call of Duty I've played in a while, and I really like Sledgehammer's last game. And you do know it's coming out without a doubt. Call of Duty does not get delayed. I just felt there were better options there, and I feel like I was hoping I could do better than like a 7.8 if that was the floor for that game.
People asking about Impartial, asking about FIFA. I thought about FIFA. But, like, the last couple have been kind of solidly in the mid-8s, and that wasn't... I don't know. In the end, it probably would have been a better pick than Sonic Mania. Or maybe Splatoon. The sports games are a really underused resource in our 3 years so far.
Looks like everyone thinks you're going to win. They say I played it way too safe, and you're going to crush me.
Yeah, well, a lot of people said that about you.
Well, I did lose.
No, they said that you were going to beat me.
Oh, you're right.
But to be fair, I think it'd be interesting once all the stuff you picked. It'd be interesting once all the stuff we picked last year is out to compare those scores.
To go back and see how.
Because I think you would have won if everything had come out, which I know doesn't matter.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Right. But I think if you're just talking about like, I know like gauging whether they're going to be out or not is part of the game. But like, if you're just talking about like what's going to score higher, I think your picks last year scored higher than mine. If you remove them from the chronology.
Yeah. Well, I have one person who says they think I'm going to win. Thank you, Nolan Ellerick. Even if you're just patronizing me, I'll take it at this point. So that's it. That's our draft. Throughout the year, we'll be checking back in, updating you guys on scores, letting you know who's winning and losing.
Throughout the next 6 months, because it's
yeah, really actually, it'll be over almost.
We might need to do a second half of the year.
We both played it really safe, which I totally understandable of what happened the last couple of years. So as games come out, we'll say, oh, that's your game. And so you'll be kept kind of in the loop throughout the year about kind of who's winning and who's losing and why. So that's it.